The sense that we get with a guy like Tillerson is that that's out the window. We have one prime directive, and everything must be funneled through that prime directive. And here is Tim Kaine, I think, like, he's actually asking about climate science. But I think Tillerson's response, ultimately, where he's like, basically saying, like, dude, I'm not going to answer you. I don't give a shit that you're part of the Senate. That's not what I'm here for. I think is indicative of the way of just how single-minded he will be. Here is Tim Kaine asking Rex Tillerson about the question of climate science and the revelations that have come out over the recent months that Exxon has known for decades that climate change was going to be a problem. Their own scientists had found this, and Exxon hid this information and hid it not just from the public, but also they had a fiduciary responsibility to tell their shareholders, because if the planet starts to burn, it's possible that governments may react to it and undercut their business model. But here's Tim Kaine asking Rex Tillerson about that.
There's been a great deal of coverage about Exxon Mobil's history with the issue of climate change. There was a recent two-part article review of books prepared by members of the Rockefeller Family Foundation and investigated by an independent team for the Columbia School of Journalism. In 2015, there was a three-part series in the Los Angeles Times, and in the same year, Inside Climate News did an 8-month investigation and produced a 9-part series that was a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize, all on the question of Exxon Mobil's knowledge of basic climate science. These articles conclude the following, and then I'm going to ask you some questions. One, Exxon Mobil concluded as early as the 1970s that pollution from CO2 released by the burning of fossil fuels was affecting the climate in potentially destructive ways. Two, despite this knowledge, Exxon Mobil took public positions against the scientific consensus regarding climate science. Three, Exxon Mobil funded outside organizations that publicly denied, downplayed, and obscured the scientific consensus. And four, Exxon Mobil, despite claims to the contrary, continues to provide funding, if at a lower level, to outside groups that deny, downplay, or obscure this scientific consensus. Are these conclusions about Exxon Mobil's history of promoting and funding climate science denial, despite its internal awareness of the reality of climate change during your tenure with the company, true or false?
Senator, since I'm no longer with Exxon Mobil, I'm in no position to speak on their behalf. The question would have to be put to them.
I'm not asking you to speak on Exxon Mobil's behalf. You were with the company for nearly 42 years?
That is correct.
And for the majority of your time, you were with the company in an executive and management position?
Approximately half the time.
And you became CEO in 2006?
Correct.
So I'm not asking you on behalf of Exxon Mobil. You've resigned from Exxon Mobil. I'm asking you whether those allegations about Exxon Mobil's knowledge of climate science and decision to fund and promote a view contrary to its awareness of the science, whether those allegations are true or false.
The question would have to be put to Exxon Mobil.
And let me ask you, do you lack the knowledge to answer my question, or are you refusing to answer my question?
A little of both.
I have a hard time believing you lack the knowledge to answer my question, but that's an editorial comment, just like your comment was an editorial comment. With respect, refusing to answer my question.
I don't know. I guess if I was Tim Kaine and I had a witness say something like that to me, I would be a little bit more angry. Maybe that's because I have anger issues. But
well, those aren't mutually. You might have anger issues, and his response
would be angering,
a bit tepid.
Right. But I think you get a sense of how civic-minded Rex Tillerson is in that, right? Like, A, broadly speaking, I don't give a shit about the fact that we knew and we lied about this for decades. And B, I don't give a shit that you're asking me and as a senator, and I'm obligated to answer your questions. So it gives you a sense of how single-minded Rex Tillerson's going to be, and how civic-minded he will be. Hey, it's Sam Seder. Why don't you subscribe to this channel? You can do so right over here. Over. Subscribe.